when we talk about, and people listen to Microsoft, they're expecting to hear about technology. And when we often talk about technology, we're talking about the ways in which to think about how technology can make a difference on learning, how we can empower students and teachers with new techniques, new experiences that inspire them, that connect them to 21st century skills, and then enable them to contribute not only to the economic workforce, but to solve some of the challenges that we're facing the planet. Now, technology has to be put in its proper place, but there's amazing things possible with technology. We just have to force our educators, our students, our learning process and systems, and technology companies to actually embed that potential into a learning context and paradigm. In some places that's being done well, or we're thinking about it well. In other times, technology is an often overlay on a traditional paradigm. In many cases, it actually undermines what the potential opportunity is. So that balance is what we're struggling with. We've got to do the right thing, but we know we have to provide technology access to enable the change to happen. So that balance is always in place. And we see countries around the world, places like Argentina or Turkey, Portugal, who are making a commitment to provide access and really recognize the need for access. But we've got to work hard and fast to making sure we're deepening the technology impact, support great teachers, and really drive the right outcomes for 21st century skills for students, which is essentially that mix that we're in every day.
Have you seen this kind of challenge in analogous kind of areas? Have other places, say health or aspects of other industries, faced something similar and done things that you think we can learn from that?
I think that's an important parallel and distinction, because technology is integrated into business for many, many years as well. And I would actually say the same sort of situation happened with technology's entrance into the corporate or the business landscape 50, 60 years ago. I think there was a great promise that people would work 3-hour weeks and everyone would be productive and everything would be wonderful. And what happened was, you've replaced your typewriter or your notepad with a word processor, or eventually a computer, but the same process was happening. The efficiencies were not really realized. It may have been more efficient or cost effective, but in terms of real massive change with regards to business productivity, new models, etc., new efficiencies, really not the gains we had hoped for. It wasn't until business actually sort of broke down everything from how do we make our manufacturing lines leverage technology to build products in more efficient and effective ways? How do we think about outreach to customers? How do we use technology to train and develop our employees? So when you start to deconstruct a business to really think about technology's then you start to see not only businesses delivering not only efficiency gains, but being able to create new products and scale markets globally. That kind of explosion of impact has started to happen with technology, and technology has often been a gateway for new entrepreneurs to start the process to expand their business. So I think we've done a lot better in that context. When you think about education, the core of education, frankly, is, in the current traditional paradigm, is content delivery. Students learn in traditional books or e-books. Doesn't matter, frankly, because it's just one vehicle, but it's the same book, and oftentimes. But the education experience is fundamentally about content, the students' retainment of the content, their ability to comprehend what they're reading, remember it on a test, etc. And the reality is, if you take technology, what it's available, the ubiquitous access to the internet, search engines, etc., we've got to challenge ourselves to question what we're testing and teaching in the classroom with technology's presence. In a world of technology and immersive devices, etc., why are we still teaching and testing the same things that we did hundreds of years ago, when the access to information is pervasive, ubiquitous, etc.? So what technology should do is to force ourselves to actually deepen the experience, either emotionally, socially, experientially, or create new experiences. And that's one of the reasons of the focus on 21st century skills, where you're really shifting the education paradigm from a content-based delivery and assessment to a skills-based focus and assessment. So you're focusing on creative thinking, collaboration skills, critical thinking skills, abstract thinking, their connection to citizenship and the environment. And then content can be a lens to develop those skills. I can think about abstract thinking as a core skill that I'm going to use and live for life, and understand algebra will be the beginning for me to think abstractly about concepts. Algebra often enters the curriculum in many cases, and you go to classrooms all over the world, the same reaction happens. A kid will raise their hand and say, what does this have to do with the real world? And they're searching for relevance, they're searching for connection into their life. And often what they're looking for is a skill around abstract thinking. But abstract thinking never really is talked about in schools. You just start doing it before you even know what it is. But if you approach it to say, hey, we're going to develop abstract thinking, it's going to help you make decisions, it's going to help you to get out of problems, it's going to help you to begin your foundation of advanced mathematics, and we're going to practice with the math tool or the subject called algebra, and we're going to focus there, etc. Not only do you put it in context for a student, you build a connection to lifelong skills that will certainly be used in the real world and connect to a more broader learning journey for a student.
Mm-hmm. So that old media industry axiom of content is king, we can't really apply that to education.
Well, I think the teaching practices have to evolve to enable this more dynamic set of learning. I think that what education should be focused on is the student potential is the focus. And you've got to focus on how do we get the most out of every student, how they can have the biggest impact not only in their lives but on the countries that they're supporting and serving in their business life and social life, etc. And if you start to look at those outcomes, how do we best achieve it? Now, one of the things you want to look at is technology as a tool. And it's a tool that provides great access to information, content, etc. So the classroom work, the school work, the learning that the institutions provide should be a reflection and extension of that, and develop skills that will connect to their broader impact in a 21st century workforce. And I think that link is what schools are starting to understand is really, really more important to grasp. And in that context, technology will, in many cases, content will, in many cases, take a little bit of a step back. But one of the reasons is technology enables content to be available. One of the things that schools often overlook when they put devices in the hands of students in classrooms is they focus on the technology training and support of a teacher. And they're worried about maybe teacher resistance to technology, etc. What they often fail to appreciate is once technology gets into the hands of students, the fundamental teaching paradigm is forever changed. Because in a traditional school model, students go to the classroom to learn about the content from the teacher. And the teacher will step them through concepts and content, etc. Increasingly, that can be done digitally and a self-guided learning path from a student's perspective. And what the classroom needs to evolve is to assume that that is existing and capable, etc. And the teacher's role is to guide the students to go along that journey and connect it to relevant skills that they're developing. And that's really where technology has to be embraced, as opposed to focusing on how to use a mouse or a web browser, etc. Really, how do I think differently about teaching with the use of technology?
Mm-hmm. Now, how about back to the sort of strategic operation? Your agreement now with the U.S. government it looks like a major step forward.
Yes.
Is that likely to happen elsewhere? I'm not trying to lead you into say
sure.
this government or that government, but are we likely to get announcements over the coming years of other deals like that?
Well, it's one of the big reasons we've been focusing on the Partners in Learning Network and actually using machine translation to globalize it, to have a global community, because we're going to, in many countries, that something like the Teach campaign doesn't exist. So what we want to use is the Partners in Learning Network as the place to go for teachers to learn about the profession of teaching, to get help and support from other teachers globally without the barrier of language, and certainly have this thriving global community. That's one area. But frankly, one of the things that we have to do a better job, and we are starting to do a much better job, is actually looking at partnerships, both in the technology industry with non-governmental organizations, as well as with governments directly, to extend the work that we do within Partners in Learning. One of the things that we just announced was the extension of Partners in Learning to also support higher education. It's a big deal for us, and one of the reasons that we were motivated to do so is really to not only connect to College of Education so we can work with universities directly on education, but also bring universities into the work that we're doing in schools. So having, for example, universities participate and extend the Partners in Learning School research work in their country, having universities help us with some of the concepts that we're trying to model with schools. It's a model for us to extend the partners that we bring into Partners in Learning. That will happen in all countries. So in many countries that don't have a Teach campaign, we will look to the lead university or a university in that country to work with us to extend the life of Partners in Learning, make it real, have a deeper contribution in the education system. And that's one of the reasons why Partners in Learning for Higher Ed exists.
Mm-hmm. So now you're at a point where you've almost got a 360 degree view of learning, and also you've got an important research feedback, which allows you to change pedagogy as well.
That's one of the reasons why we've tried to do this. One of the things for me is, and I said it yesterday, it's just sort of been my philosophy sort of since I've been in the worldwide position. I've tried to move Partners in Learning from just a program to the foundation for everything that we do in education. So in many cases, the expansive thinking that we have around supporting education, the way in which we think about technology, even technology's own contributions to enhancing the Partners in Learning network, and then this broader connection of partnerships is part of that, hey, we've got to embrace this as our foundation for education, not just a separate program that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure that the impact of some of this is felt by your employees who are involved in these programs. It must be quite stimulating to be involved and see the change. Does any of it feed back into Microsoft itself in terms of your own CPD?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the programs that we've launched inside Microsoft is a program called EduConnect, and it's an internal program for our employees to basically not only connect to the work we do in Partners in Learning, but help us extend it in their own classrooms, as well as participate and sort of get the pride that comes with the work that we do within Partners in Learning. So within EduConnect, you may have a parent that says, hey, I want to help my classroom or my teacher or my school. How can I do so? And we give materials and support so they can actually engage directly. Or you may have, we have in a program we have called TEALS, where Microsoft employees are actually volunteering to teach math and science courses around the Microsoft campus. So we're actually getting our employees to say, hey, I have a passion about education. I've been inspired by the work in Partners in Learning. I want to contribute directly. So we actually have a foundation for that inside the company. It's very much part of the commitment to the core of Microsoft, and certainly something embraced by all of our employees.
And the key decision, I understand, for Partners in Learning was from Bill Gates.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's quite a cachet for him too, isn't it?
There's a high degree of complementary work. At the Partners in Learning Global Forum, David Christian, who's been partnering with Bill Gates on the Big History Project, was here speaking to our educators. We certainly are inspired by the work Bill is doing in the foundation and in personal life to support education, and a lot of that connects to his work at Microsoft and with Partners in Learning, inspiring him to take on the mantle in his personal work to continue to extend the impact.